Welcome to Meeples on Meeples, episode 31. I'm Adam.
Patrick.
Brian.
As usual, before we get into our game of the week this week, I want to invite you over to our website, meeplesonmeeples.com. We have all of our videos, games of the week, all the component shots for the games we play, so if you want nice close-up pictures, and get to know a little bit more about us. You can also catch us over on Facebook, facebook.com/meeplesonmeeples, and our YouTube channel, Meeples on Meeples. You can subscribe there and get notifications when we put up new videos every week.
This week's game of the week is Wiz-War, a Fantasy Flight game. It states that it's for ages 14 and up. We'll probably discuss that a little bit later. The premise of this game is just what the box says. It's a war against wizards. You start off with a wizard of your choice. Great little miniatures here. And you choose the color base. And the color base coordinates with your lifestyle. And this is how you keep track of your life points, your hit points throughout the game. And with your caps. And when somebody casts a spell on you, you put a cap on that spell to know that it was directed at you. During your turn, there's only several things that you do. The first beginning of your turn is upkeep. If you have any spells that you had played last turn that require you to place energy on them, you remove one of those energies at the beginning of your turn. Once there's no more energy tokens on your card, that spell is out of the play. After your upkeep, your next turn is cast and move. Normally you can move up to 3 squares in any direction and cast a spell. Attacks or attack spells, you only can do 1 every turn. All the other spells, really, you can play as many as you have based upon the rules and the instructions of the card.
And on movement, you can move straight, you can't move diagonally.
That's right, you can't move diagonally. You can attack diagonally if they're right next to you, but you can only move straight lines, lateral or horizontal.
You can attack diagonally if you have the line of sight from the...
Or if you're right next to them, yeah.
Yeah, so you got to be kind of careful there.
So, the object of the game is to score 2 points in the traditional game. You score points by grabbing one of your opponent's treasure chests and making it all the way back to your spot and dropping it on your wizard square. That will be worth 1 point. Or annihilating another wizard by knocking them down to 0 on their health point by casting spells at them.
And really, that's the fun way.
And it's a fun way to do it. It's a very fast, easy game. Cutthroat, and that's really all there is to the rules.
Yeah, it's
the cards basically tell you what the rules are as you play through them.
Yeah, each spell and counter spell, because you're going back and forth as wizards, it's all on the cards for the most part.
As far as cards go, there's actually, is it 7 separate mini decks?
There are about 8 mini decks.
Do you combine
different forms of arts of magic? Yeah, some decks are more heavily leaned towards having items in them. Some are more offensive spells, some more defensive. Maybe some have a little more fire versus...
And how many decks do you use in a...
Traditionally, you use 4 decks.
So you pick 4 of those 8?
That's right. You start off with one. There's the white hand or the black hand. You start off with one of those, and that has to do with one of the methods of magic. And then you choose 3 other larger decks to add to it. You shuffle them up. At the beginning of your turn, everyone has dealt 7 cards. You play as many as you want. At the end of your turn, you can discard as many as you want. And you only draw 2 each turn.
With max of 7.
Up to 2 each turn with max of 7. You can choose not to draw any cards. And that's
good. How about components? I think you kind of hit on it a little bit as far as the statues, or the miniatures. They're actually, I think, some pretty nice miniatures. I like that they have the bases where you can pick any miniature you want and put it on your character.
Yes, they do separate. I was just going to point that out. Yeah. It's nice that if I pick green, I'm not stuck with this particular mold. I don't have to be that guy.
Yep.
The other thing I like is some spells allow you to morph into other characters, and they actually have the miniatures to represent that morphing. So if I morph into the, for example, the troll, or there's a slime, there's a gnome, you can actually pop your guy off and pop what you morphed into on, and so people can realize that that spell is still into effect. So that's kind of a fun thing.
The base also has a notch here, so when you pick up someone's treasure, because you have to show that you have the treasure, or you're carrying certain items, you take that little cardboard chit, and you put it in there, and it stays with your figure. And if anybody casts something that forces you to drop, you just pull it out, drop it on that square, and there it is.
I like the cardboard chits. They're very thick. I mean, they're very thick. They're dual-sided. The items that you pick up, you can drop them on the board. Each item has its own individual chit. The cards, I think, are high-quality cards. They're pretty. They're not cheap.
They got a texture to them, kind of a plasticky card.
The one thing that I really geek out about is I love these health dials. It's
really
kind of like an Oreo cookie type of dial where you turn the top dial and it shows you can gain health and you can lose health, and it's a great way. If you bump it, it's not going to lose its
it's not loose. It's kind of fit and everything. I think the art style is actually The board is very plain. When I first saw it, I think I said this is one of the uglier games I've ever seen. Just looking at the board,
It's black lines, yeah, representing walls.
the art on the cards is actually pretty good, though. I mean, it's fair. It's they have a drawing representing what it is. Like this is invisible, so it's got two people, and one of the guys kind of looks like a ghost.
It's colorful artwork.
Yep.
I mean, I like the boards. The fact that you can set them up. They're double-sided, so there's two different possibilities. But also the fact that you have a door in the center of each side, so you don't have to set it up this way. The next game you can flip it and maybe set it up this way. You can rearrange, put blue in the middle. It's a different map all the time. It's kind of like it's not really random, but a slightly random map generator by flipping them, turning them around. And there are spells that actually let you rotate them in the middle of the game to screw somebody over when they think they're going to make a break for it.
Yeah, and the maps are double-sided. This is actually a reprint. So one side of the map is the traditional game. The other side of the map is the new map that Fantasy Flight came up with. So it gives you a lot of variability and setup of the game.
How about strategy for this game? Anybody?
It really actually depends on surprisingly enough, it depends on the decks that you play with. If you know the decks, you can really build a strategy much better. We play just as much Scrooge as possible and all out guns blazing.
It is like from a video game background, it is a deathmatch / capture the flag game. Like if you played one of those in a video game, it's the same type of mentality here.
A little more old school. It reminds me. I'd say it's a throwback to, again, if you're a video game player, the old GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64. Yeah. Maximum of 4 players, a smaller map, and it's capture the flag, grab it, and try to get it back to your base, and then people can steal it out of your base. However, it doesn't say they're permanently. You have to drop it there and leave it. And then you're just trying to kill each other. But the way the maps are, they're very simple as far as the layout, and they're very small, so tight quarters means you're always going to be coming into contact with people. So I guess one of the strategies there is try not to get sandwiched between 2 players. And unfortunately, the layout for a 3-player game is they kind of make somebody in the middle. And I did win that way, but it seems a little bit harder because at first everybody's got to cut through your square or just steal your treasures, and you're kind of the first target they come across.
I think we kind of proved that wrong when we played it again, though. I mean, if you grab these portals, you can end up in, I can go from, like I started here, I can end up in Pat's Square.
That's true. That's true.
I can completely bypass it, so I don't think that's necessarily true.
But there's a good chance that people are going to be running through your thing. Especially when people start throwing up walls blocking other exits, it's like, okay, well, you got to go through my home territory.
Yeah. The other fun thing is you can actually, not only can you move the map, you can change the map by throwing up magic walls and firewalls.
Tearing down walls.
I locked myself in. Somebody made a wall here, and they locked this door here that I had a celestials or a phantom spirit or mist form, and I got in there, but then I got stuck and I had to waste a lot of turns trying to get myself out while they were battling each other.
That was your own fault. You went in without an exit strategy, much like the U.S. going into, well, anyway.
He got in there in all fairness, and then I threw up the wall. So
I
got a treasure, and
I thought the wall was there, and he just went through the lock.
No, it is.
I think the square was complete, and he just walked right in.
I had 3 markers on my mist form, so I thought I had 3 more turns until I realized that once that last marker goes off at the beginning of my turn, I become solid again, and I can't get out. And
that was classy.
I was just sitting there and I finally pulled the right card to get me out of it. So
know your powers and plan ahead. Put enough. You have to burn other cards sometimes to give you more power on a spell. Make sure your spell's going to last as long as you need it to last. That's a strategy. As long as we're talking strategies.
Yeah. One of the strategies I would go with is certain cards at the bottom have. Or you can actually get just energy cards. You normally can only move 3 spaces, but you can burn a card and use its energy, or just use an energy card to add on to that. So you can go from, I could only normally pick up this treasure and then move 3 spaces in my next turn.
No, you can't move.
My next turn.
Your next turn, yes.
If I throw down this 4, I can then move 7. So with the treasure in hand, I can run through the portal and almost get back to my home base pretty quickly. That's one of the things I didn't realize when we first started playing it. You can...
And
I thought moving 3 was kind of,
That's key is use the extra movement as much, or get the pendant that gives you that 1 extra space. It adds up fast.
Yep.
And don't forget that once you pick up a treasure, your turn ends. And it's not your movement ends. You can't cast any spells.
Your whole turn is done. I would say another strategy, before we move on, is you can get a point for killing other people too, but with 15 hit points... Almost every game somebody did. That last game nobody died, but almost every other game I played, at some point somebody...
You were pretty close.
Because we're pretty cutthroat. Yeah. But Pat, usually ends up dying.
I do.
And I'm not much of an attacker. My strategy is, everybody who's won has won by getting a second treasure.
In all fairness, he wasn't really attacked. I just had the disease, so every time I walked through his square, I did 3 damage.
That's true.
So I just walked by him a bunch.
But excuse me. But getting treasures just seems like a better way to win. Because you never know when they're going to have counter spells, so you could waste a whole bunch of attacks like I did on you in that last game. Every time I threw an attack, you had a new wall, another dodge, or whatever. And it just seems that's probably not the best way to go about winning.
Speak for yourself.
Going for the treasures or the capture the flag mode seemed a lot more effective for me.
Yeah.
There's other variances that the box come with that tell you how to play. You can play with more than just 4 tombs. You can with tomes. You can play.
Excuse me.
You can play for 3, 4 points. You don't always have to play for 2. There's different rules that it comes with if you want to mix it up a little bit. If you get too used to playing All Out War, you can change the flavor of it a little bit with alternate rules.
So how about likes or dislikes?
Likes or dislikes? That's what I was going to ask. I like the fact that making that same comparison, it plays like an old-fashioned, like a decade ago video game. It's just very fast.
How old are you?
It's old man.
Pac-Man?
It's super fast-paced.
No, we are none of us. You're the only one that old.
And we tend to enjoy, our group I think likes player interaction.
Yeah.
It's not just like, we're bidding on little things on the board. And no. You are, every turn, you are stealing somebody's treasure.
I don't know if it's player interaction.
Trying to
I think
stop
we're like
somebody.
screwing each other. Is what
We do like to stick it to each other every once in a while and be like, no, there you are not going to get that. And you get that evil laugh when somebody thinks like, they're going to make a break free, make a run for it, and all of a sudden like a wall gets thrown up and then somebody else is shooting like fireballs at them or whatever. And so it's constantly, you're always in the game even when it's not your turn. Because you can counter a spell, so even, you're always doing something.
I found myself giggling to myself the whole turn before I knew I was going to throw up a wall and lock your entire base down. Like, I was just sitting there like, I don't care what happens now, I'm going to block his whole base.
You can't get it. I mean, all those things I really like. I just think it's a fun game. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of thinking. The cards really tell you how to play your character or how to play each spell. There's a couple times we had to look back into the rulebook just for clarification of wording, but it wasn't that hard. I mean, we found it fairly easy.
Surprisingly, with all these different decks and all these different cards and all the different language they use, this is one of those games where we really didn't end up going back to the rulebook all along.
No, it was
pretty straightforward.
And the more games you play, pretty soon it's just like, you're always just the cards.
Yep.
Just go by, what's the card say?
I think we had one instance where we had a word that we had to look for the definition, but otherwise it...
And how they defined it. I like the miniatures. I mean, they didn't have to. They could have easily, like when you transform to another character, they could easily just say, place this card out and you're that character now. No, they give you a miniature to transform into. And I like that flavor because now you can say, oh, my guy is this, and he looks like it, and that was a lot of fun.
One thing maybe is a dislike, and this goes back to components a little. I kind of already said the board itself, not that great as far as art goes. It's a gray background with the color for your player.
But
it's
decent quality.
It's a decent quality.
It's a thick board.
The other thing they could have done is they probably could have made it interlock.
There you go. I was like, somebody's got to bring up every review. This game should have been interlocked because they can only match up. The doors always
so much though. But you move it so much.
So you just pop it up and. They could have done it.
But if you interlocked it...
That's really getting nitpicky.
You have to remember, we're now playing on this nice felt tabletop where things don't slide as much. Your average person on a smooth table, these are going to get bumped and they're going to move.
But now think about the interlock.
That's a nuisance.
I'm just going to say, if this was going to cut out and this was a cut in, all of these would have to be cut out, which means red would only be able to be played in this position.
No, you do it like the Dungeons and Dragons styles where they're totally interchangeable.
I see. Okay.
I don't do all that fancy cutting, but they have a way where they all can line up.
He lets other people do the thinking.
Yeah, that's...
it could be interlocking.
But that's really getting nitpicky. Otherwise, it's a fun game. I mean, one downside to it, and maybe that it gets more reading into the rule book, there doesn't seem to be much of a reason. Like, if you're a person looking for a real story behind it, there's not. I mean, it is like Deathmatch or Capture the Flag. You're just in there to screw the other
basically, you're
person.
trying to become the most powerful wizard. So, yeah, it's just a war between wizards. You just have a grudge match.
The Wiz-War.
It has less to do with bathroom humor than you think.
Yeah. Should we get into our reviews now? Does that kind of cover the likes?
Yes, I think that covers the likes and dislikes.
All right, scale is 1 to 10. 1 is terrible, 10 is amazing.
I'm going to start out, and I'm going to give it a 9.
Wow.
It is a fun game. Like, I don't know. This is one of the few games where the first time through, even games I like, you kind of scratch your head the first time through as you kind of trying to kind of figure it out. The first time we played, I loved it. I didn't have trouble with the rules. It played super easy. maybe coming from the video game background, I like the capture the flag, deathmatch idea. It's a very simple idea, and there's a ton of player interaction, which I like. I like games where you're always focused on what's going on. You have to, otherwise, there's no way you're going to win it. And I don't know how else to put it. It's just fun. I liked it. I'd give it a 9.
I'm going to give it a... excuse me, I'm going to give it... kind of took me up there, man. I'm going to give it an 8. I love the game. It's fast. It plays great. It's a bunch of... a lot of interaction. The cards tell you how to play. It's one of those games that has very few hiccups and flaws. Now, having said that, we had a comment on our Facebook page that said they have some players that don't like this game because it can be cutthroat. It is great for our game group where we love playing that way. It is a possibility that somebody gets knocked out of the game. A lot of people don't like that. If you die, you're out of the game until the game ends. These games don't last very long anyways, but it's definitely not for somebody. If somebody gets upset, if people start to attack them or pick on them, this would not go well in your group because they're going to get upset and they're going to throw a fit. But with our group, it is an absolute blast to just pick on each other and try to mess with each other and try to come out ahead. So I give it a strong 8.
I'm going to probably piggyback on the 8. The theme is so strong and it comes through really well. And the great components, I'm always a sucker for miniatures and everything.
Quick aside, why aren't these painted?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So there's great quality there, but yeah, I'm going to throw that same thing. And as soon as we posted that this was our game of the week that we'd be playing and reviewing, we did get comments right away like, oh, that's really cutthroat. I didn't think I'd like it because, that kind of player interaction and where you're purposely trying to knock each other and eliminate them from a game turns people off. So just go in knowing that. If your group does not like that type of game, then don't get this.
This is going to be a tough sell.
Just plain and simple. Luckily, it plays fairly quickly.
Oh, it does.
Even your first time through, especially on a 3-player game, it plays up to 4. You could get through it probably about 45, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you get knocked out, you're probably only going to be out about the last 10 minutes of the game or whatever.
And it's really hard. So, most spells, max you can do is usually 5 damage.
Excuse me. So I will give it an 8. It is an excellent game. I agree. I like it a lot.
Okay, so there you have it. There's Wiz-War. Our game of the week next week is...
That's a good question. We were so good for a few weeks. Let's do Castles of Burgundy.
Really?
Yeah. I've had it for how long now?
I know you have.
And we haven't played it.
Is it shrink wrap yet?
No, it's off.
It's off.
Right. We'll be playing Castles of Burgundy, getting ready to review it, I guess.
All right. Good luck with that. We'll see you next time.